was searching everywhere, went into Buddhism, went into mystic stuff, had crystals, had candles, had I don't even know what all I had. Looked into pretty much every religion that there was out there. And I guess there was just something inside of me that knew there was truth. I knew that God existed. I just didn't know who he was. It was betrayal, it was rejection, and above all, it was confusion. God has completely dismantled everything
Mm.
I have built for the last 12 years, and he's done it in the last 30 days.
Stories stir the soul,
Stories revealed.
and stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
We've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
hello, friends, and welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm your host, Wendy Pett.
I'm Todd Isberner. And Wendy, have you ever felt like you did everything right? You made a plan, you prayed the prayers, you stayed faithful, and you still watched it all fall apart.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think it happens to a lot of
unfortunately.
us. Yeah.
And our guest today knows it all too well. Bobi Ryan had her life mapped out. Have you ever had it mapped out? I know I have. Mapped out promotion, stability, even plans for her son. And then in a few weeks, everything unraveled.
Yeah. And what followed was not a quick turnaround, but it was a long
long suddenly.
season of waiting. Yeah. And that's where the real breakthrough happened, in that waiting time.
Yeah. So if you are in a season where God's timing feels really slow, silent, or just confusing, then this conversation will actually encourage you to trust that his suddenly is still coming. It is, even if it takes longer than expected.
Mm.
So let's just jump right in with our conversation with Bobi Ryan. Enjoy the show.
Let's not just jump right
Oh,
in because
don't?
we have the whole bio to do.
Oh, we're
So,
going to do
yeah.
the bio.
Yeah.
Okay, do the bio.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
go. Go, Ty, do the bio.
Okay, good. So,
You seemed all grumpy there that I forgot the bio.
because I thought you were going to cut and then we're going to edit, but I love the fact that you just go
Let's
with
just
the
roll with it.
flow. Let's
Hey.
keep rolling.
Who's the professional that says one take, one take?
Yeah, I think
That's you.
I think that was me. All right,
So,
good. So
here we
Bobby
go.
has spent more than 2 decades working at the intersection of faith and communication and people-centered leadership. I had a chance to meet her years ago. We were able to work together in radio. She's awesome talent. And with a background in broadcasting and ministry leadership, nonprofit fundraising, and over 26 years in Christian radio, Bobby has consistently pursued work that serves something bigger than herself. And then 16 years ago, God redirected her path into senior living and healthcare, where she now serves as the senior executive director, leading with a deep belief in people over systems.
Mm.
And she loves to lead by example. She does it
Yes,
well.
she does. And along the way, Bobby walked through a defining season of waiting
Mm.
and more waiting and more waiting and believing and more believing and more believing for a promotion that never came, and then watching carefully the laid plans, how they unraveled. And so that decade-long delay that she was waiting for and believing in, it actually came to pass, and it reshaped her understanding of success, obedience, and God's timing, teaching her that God suddenly often comes from years of unseen preparation. A mom, advocate, and leader, Bobby's story is a powerful reminder that waiting is never wasted,
Mm.
and that God is always at work, even when the breakthrough feels delayed. Okay, now can we bring Bobby
Yeah,
in?
let's join with
Okay,
Bobby.
all right. Enjoy the show. Welcome, Bobby, to Your Biggest Breakthrough. It's a delight to have you.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. Thank you.
You know, I should let everybody know, Bobby and I kind of go back a ways.
Yes.
Back to the radio days. We're going to talk about your radio days a little bit, but we had some really great times working the Christian radio stations around the country doing fundraisers. And I got to say, you were just sort of gifted at that. You know how to ask for money.
Yeah, I do when it comes to radio. Unfortunately, in my personal life, I've never been really good at that. But
Oh, man. Well, we're excited about today's show because I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to your breakthrough story. And just to kind of put it in a nutshell, we're going to talk a lot about when God's, quote, suddenly takes 10 years. What do you do? But before we go there with you, Bobby, and this incredible story that you've got, let's back up a little bit just to talk a little bit about your faith journey. How did you come to know Jesus? Where did that start, and where is it today?
It's a great question. So, I was raised Catholic. Went through the First Holy Communion and was at church every Sunday in the CCD classes. And somewhere around 14, where you get really persnickety about everything, I questioned everything. And a lot of it wasn't making sense to me of what I was hearing, or what I really, the absence of what I was hearing, at least for me. And so it came time to be confirmed into the church, and I told my family that I was not going to do that. And so from that time, from the time I was probably 14 until I was about 19 or 20, I just was searching everywhere, went into Buddhism, went into mystic stuff, had crystals, had candles, had, I don't even know what all I had, looked into pretty much every religion that there was out there. And I guess there was just something inside of me that knew there was truth. I knew that God existed. I just didn't know who he was.
Huh.
Mm.
And I was searching for that. And I was dating somebody at a time, and it was God ordained that I was, because his mother, who had been a Christian and kind of fallen away from her faith at this time that I met her, was really getting reignited in her passion. And all day, all night, she would just have television preachers on. She was reading her Bible ferociously and then being like, "Oh my gosh, Bobby, do you know what it says about this?" And she was sharing all these things with me. And I got excited. And I guess that kind of Rolodex in my mind of everything that I had learned at church and what my mother did teach me as a child, was coming back. And it was kind of all coming together. And then I just remember one night she just asked me, "Have you ever asked Jesus into your heart?" And I said, "I didn't know I was supposed to." And that was news to me. And so that night, it was very unceremonious. I asked Jesus into my heart, and that was the beginning of the great adventure.
I love that,
What a beautiful
Bobby.
story. Hmm.
Seriously, I think how many people are probably listening that have also maybe walked that way of maybe they're practicing Catholicism right now and they haven't asked for Jesus to come into their heart. So you're going to help them help them ponder this a little bit more and hopefully dive in deeper
You
in their
should have
faith.
listened to mom about getting confirmed.
Yes,
No,
I did hear that. Thank you, Todd.
I'm
Yes.
sure you did. Yeah.
so what were you when you were because when you were searching and seeking and the Buddhism and the crystals, like what do you I mean, obviously God can only fill the void in our heart that we have and we don't realize it at the time, but what do you know if there was something that you were really believing God for at that time, or what kind of
I
you
think a
were
lot of it
after?
was, well, a lot of it I was looking for my own purpose and
Mm,
kind of something to settle, an inner peace, questions answered.
yeah,
Um, a lot
knowing
of
your
the,
identity.
yeah, I guess identity. And then a
Hmm.
lot of the things, like the crystals and the stars and the numerology and all that kind of stuff. I believe that my thought was that I knew that God created everything, that God created the stars, that he created these beautiful crystals and gems and things that we have, and that somehow all these things are interconnected, and that that spirituality was connected to him through these things that he created, and that through that I would be able to maybe see God. If I could
Mm.
wear these crystals and they're going to make me stronger, richer, prettier, whatever,
Hmm.
then that was somehow God working through these things.
Yeah, so you were seeking intimacy and to becoming closer to our creator, basically, through these things. I think how many other people kind of fall into that trap as well, but we don't get closer through the things, we get closer through Jesus, right? Which you
Right.
found out. So that's so great.
So you followed the Lord, and you started to get involved in ministry. And was it did you first jump into Christian radio?
I was in college. I was a theater major in college,
Yeah.
and a very wise guidance counselor told me, "You have to dual major. You cannot just major in theater. Take communications." And I thought, I don't want to do anything with radio. I just want to be an actress. That's all I want to do. So, thank goodness for that guidance counselor. So, I did do some college radio, didn't like it. And this was in Pennsylvania. And then I came to Florida and a lot of things changed. First, coming to Florida, I got kind of lost and crazy for about 6 or 8 months. And then God brought me back to Him, and I found a pretty large megachurch. And I was going there and I really liked it. And then, about like the second or third month I was there, they had on stage drama. Like they had
Huh.
people performing on the stage. And I was like, wait a minute, I know how to do that. And so I ended up, after years, running the drama ministry for that church. And I would write all of the original scripts myself. And I was directing it. And so then it was a right. So you may have to edit this because this story is kind of crazy, but it's really kind of cool.
Oh, we love the crazy. We're
Yeah.
keeping it
Okay.
in.
I think our
So
listeners relate to crazy. Yes.
okay, so I was acting, and I was in Florida. I was here to for modeling because I used to model when I was in New York. And so I came to Florida and I was working, going on tons of castings all the time. And one day my mom called me and she said, I just had the weirdest dream about you. I saw you in a radio station booth and you were talking into a microphone and people were really listening to what you were saying. And I kind of laughed it off. And she said, no, I'm serious. This was a really strange dream. And I was like, Mom, it was a dream, whatever. And then so that day I was on a casting and this guy says to me, who was also on the casting, have you ever thought about getting into radio? Now, when you're a
Wow.
model and people tell you that you should consider radio, that's not really a compliment. So,
Yeah.
Well, first of all, if they're watching this versus listening to this,
Yeah.
they will see
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
very much are a model
Yeah.
as
Don't you
well.
hate it though when they say you got a great face for radio? Oh man, no, please.
so then this guy proceeded to tell me about this radio school that he was going to. And I'm going, okay, God, I'll go check it out. So I went and checked it out. And it was expensive. And I thought I could come up with, some of the money, whatever. And then my car blew up. And this was like the day before the classes were supposed to start. And I called them and said, I'm sorry. I was all of maybe 23 years old. And I'm like, I have to put an engine in my car and all that. And they said, well, you know what? We have a scholarship that was just the person decided not to take the scholarship and it
Hmm.
freed up the money. So I was able to actually
Wow.
go for like $200, I think I had to pay. And so while I was there, I was kind of the token Christian in the room. And like everybody's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know why I'm here. And I didn't listen to any secular music during that season of my life. And so I would say the only thing I would do would be Christian radio. Like that's really there's nothing else that I would do. I don't know anything. And so I was kind of just like the token Christian and whatever, kind of got, teased a little bit about that. So it comes time to take your internship. When you graduate school, the big thing that the school gave you was an internship. And so we're about to graduate, and they said, Bobby, you haven't picked an internship. And I said, I don't know. Like nothing, there's nothing here that I want to do. And they said, well, if you don't pick it by graduation, we're done. And the next day, I got a call from the director of this school and said, well, you're not going to believe this. I just got a call from Way FM radio station and they said they're looking for an intern. That's the local Christian station. And he
Praise
said, I
God.
told them, boy, do I have the girl for you?
Hmm.
And so I went to become an intern at Way FM, which is in West Palm Beach, and ended up coming on staff there. And then I ended up becoming the director of advertising. I was there for probably 9 years.
Hmm.
And that was when I met
Amazing.
Todd.
Yeah.
That's when you met Todd.
Right. I came in
To raise some money.
help out on their share-a-thon, and
Yep.
you were a talent. You weren't necessarily doing an air shift, but you had that, that talent, so they took advantage of that. So you stayed in radio for a while. You started to do some other things. So let's kind of keep going down the road that led you to where your breakthrough came that you were telling me about recently that we want to kind of unpack. But
Okay.
as you're in radio, so what was the next step?
So my heart always really loved production and theater production and stage production, and I loved church. And so after being at WFM for about 9 years, and I had kind of hit my own personal ceiling there. The church that I was going to asked me if I would consider taking a position on the pastoral team, and I would be directing, leading, and producing all of the church services, everything from the lighting to the sound and everything in between. And that was just my dream job. And so, I really didn't even have to think about it, and I went to work for the church. I was there for a couple years, and yeah, things change, when you work for the church that you go to, and, after a couple years, kinda really wasn't for me. So then I went back into fundraising, and I was, a single mom at this point. My son was 5, and I was fundraising for an inner city ministry that provided free healthcare and after school programs for underprivileged children. And I had very high goals set for me of what they needed.
Hmm.
And I was confident, all the love of the Lord behind me, I can do this. And then the real estate bubble burst, and nobody was giving money to anything.
Mm.
And they couldn't afford to keep me on. So I lost my position with that company. And here I am, a single mom with a house, and trying to figure out where this is going to come together. And so every day it was a full-time job, scouring the newspapers, yes, I think there were newspapers then, and the
Yeah.
internet at, everything that you can, and trying to network and look for things. And there was a period of time that I really don't know how the bills got paid. And I'm not trying to sound
Mhm.
mystical or over spiritual, but I know how much money was there and I know how much the bills were. And somehow God was just miracling us through every month.
Mm, that's
And
beautiful.
so I saw a job that was posted for a program director for a senior living community. And I read the job description and I thought, well, this is all things that I've done before, just never for this particular demographic. So I threw a resume at it and got a call and was going in for an interview. And I'm not sure if the executive director did this strategically or if he really was just forgetful. But they called him to tell him I was there, and he made me wait almost an hour and a half
Mm.
before he came to see me. And I wasn't going anywhere, but in that hour and a half, it gave me the opportunity to sit and talk with all of the residents there, World War II veterans, um, people from all different backgrounds. And all of these sweet, wonderful people were so kind, all coming up to me. Who are you? What are you doing here? What do you want to do here? And just so positive. And by the time that hour and a half was over with, I knew this was where I wanted to work.
Hmm.
And
Mm,
so I got that job, and it was really a challenge because I didn't know anything about elderly people who are dealing with chronic pain, who are dealing with the losses of loved ones, who are dealing with some cognitive issues as well, and
mhm,
physical issues, and what that all means.
mhm.
Sometimes we think that people are just grumpy when they get old. No,
Mm.
growing old is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get that. So the first couple years was definitely a learning curve. I think I probably cried almost every day when I left work that first year. So I'm like, why are all these people yelling at me? Um, and didn't realize what I didn't know. So the story here, so this was a very large senior living community. It was 350 residents, which is large. And I went through, I want to say 5 executive directors in my first 2 to 3 years that I was
Uh,
there with this company.
like the
And what
burnout
was that?
was big, like, burnout was big
For
in
the
this
directors?
for the directors, or
That was part of it. Part of it, it's just, it doesn't always attract really devoted talent.
Yeah.
For a
Mm.
long time in senior living, people just really, it was just kind of recycled mediocrity that people would just bounce from community to community, company to
Mm.
company. A lot of times, executive directors really have entrepreneurial spirits. So they want to come in and it's fun to make all the changes. And then once that's done, they're like, oh, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go now.
Gotcha.
And
Mm.
they
Gotcha.
don't wait to maintain it.
Yeah.
So of course, a lot happened during my time here at this company. I was there for 12 years, and it was somewhere around year 6 or 7, the executive director that was working there, she had been there a few years. She said that she was, ready to retire. She was going to look at retiring soon. And I said, "Well, I hope you know that I want your chair. That's the job that I want."
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I loved the company I worked for. It was because I loved this community. I
Mhm.
loved these residents. They were my family. I put 100% of my heart and soul into these people, into my staff, into making this a really, really successful community. And she said that she didn't know that. And she said that she was going to talk to the regional director about that. And so she came back to me and said, okay, so we want to pay for you to go through the necessary training, to get your certification, to go through the classes. And I'm so excited. So over the course of the next year or so, I did all that. And she said, well, you know what? I guess I'm not ready to retire yet. I'm going to wait another year.
Mhm.
Okay. So a few months later, waited and I said, I just want you to know I still want this position. That's what I'm here for. And in the meantime, I've been offered a lot of positions. I had earned a reputation in the industry. And she said, okay, I'm going to talk to the regional director again. She comes back and said, okay, we've come up with a plan. Once a week, you and I are going to meet for 1 to 2 hours, and I'm going to show you all the software systems. I'm going to show you. So this will be a seamless transition. Great. So time comes, her birthday comes around again. She says, no, I don't think I'm ready to retire yet. I think I'm going to wait one more year.
Mm.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. All right.
yeah.
I'm
Bobby,
here.
let me just stop you for a second here because I'm kind of seeing a pattern. Uh,
The waiting game.
well, not only the waiting game, but I see how God intervened in ways at the time you may not have realized it. But you start off in theater and drama and radio and sales and
God uses all of that.
leadership,
Yeah.
and all the
Mhm.
while he's giving you what you need along with opportunities to learn and to grow. And I just love the fact that you had this willing spirit to just keep learning and growing and following his lead and discovering new talents and gifts and likes and interests. So here you are, your expectations, I'm guessing, are really starting to build up now as you're
So
awaiting the great unfolding of the plan.
something that you just said was so true. And it becomes a testimony that I tell people all the time about your vocation and your job. If you believe that God truly opened this door for you and that you're supposed to be someplace, it doesn't matter if you're not happy. It doesn't matter if
Mm.
you're having a bad day or you have a bad boss
It's
or you have
good.
several bad bosses. You stay there until God opens that door again.
Ah,
You're on
I
assignment.
I was absolutely positive that this was my
huh.
ministry, that that's where I was supposed to be. And as
Mm.
long as God was going to keep me there, that's where I would be. And I'm so glad I did because I was able to not only build a reputation of loyalty in an industry that's not very loyal, but I learned so much and I impacted so many people's lives
Mm.
because I didn't just say, okay, I'm taking my ball and going home. So thank you for bringing that up because that really is a super important point. And,
Mm.
during this time that I worked there for 12 years, again, going back to motherhood, I wasn't paid a lot. This was not a high management executive money that I was making. So I was working 3 jobs
Mm.
the whole
Wow.
time.
Wow.
And, it was very important to me for my son to have a Christian education. For me, it was that I was a single mom. He was a boy. I needed every avenue. I needed to build that village so that everybody was repeating the same thing, that he was hearing
Mm.
it at church, he was hearing it at home, he was hearing it from my friends, and he was hearing it at school.
Yeah.
And so, from the time he was 3 years old, I sacrificed a lot and had extra jobs in order to make sure that he could get that Christian education. So that was something super important as I was doing this, and that all becomes part of the journey. So, yes, so excitement was raising, and I'm thinking, okay, she's 67 and a half. Like, how much longer are we doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
So finally, it was that year that she said, I'm going to go into retirement. And I said, okay. And so I immediately called the regional director and said, I understand that my supervisor has put in for her retirement. I know you know that this is the position I've been waiting for. And I'm so excited. And she said, yep, I understand that. She said, okay, so we just have to go through the formalities. You're going to have to go online and apply for the job. And I understand HR. So I went online and I applied, and then she set up an interview with me a week later. Okay. And the interview was so strange. It was like she was talking to me like she didn't know me, yet I had been working with her for 12 years.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so I'm waiting and I didn't hear anything. And then about 10 days later, she called me and she said, I'm really sorry to tell you, but we're not offering you the position. We've decided to promote an executive director from a smaller community to come to this community because that's just the way we do it. We don't like to promote from within.
Wow,
Wow.
wow.
So did this feel
Mm.
like massive rejection, Bobby?
Or betrayal
Or
or
betrayal? Yeah,
It
what did this feel
was
like?
it was betrayal, it was rejection, and above all, it was confusion.
So how did you
That
manage all of that in that moment?
um there was definitely devastation. Um I I don't think I stopped crying for probably 3 days.
Mm.
A company for 12 years that I had given my everything and put all my hopes and dreams and eggs in this one basket. And even so much so, so to help you understand, like where I live is one town. Where my son went to school is 20 miles south. And then from there, my job was 10 miles south of that. So there's a reason
Mm.
why I tell you this. So in preparing to get this job that's 30 miles, I said, well, now it's time to buy a house. So I put
Mm.
an offer in on a house that would be very close to my son's school, make life so much easier. So right after I get this news that I'm not getting this position, um, I get a call from the real estate agent. My offer had already been accepted about a week prior. And she said, I don't know what to tell you, but the financing went through. They're not going to accept an FHA loan. So now the house that I bid on has fallen through. So at that
Wow.
point, I just kind of had to laugh at that one. Okay,
Good
there'll
for
be other
you.
Yeah,
ones.
that one right there was God's
Uh,
protection too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it was probably about a month later. We were getting it was summer break, and my son was 15 years old at this time, and he was at that age of like 15-year-old boys, and he was full of attitude and hormones, and
huh,
he was getting into a little trouble at school. I mean, he didn't steal anything, he didn't do anything horrible, but he was a little mouthy. um I think probably disrespectful, as I think most 15 boys are, but he wasn't. I mean, I didn't think that he was like the spawn of Satan or anything like that. I just thought that he was, going through a thing. And I knew had gotten terrible, some detentions and things. So the principal wants to meet with my son and I, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have the talk before the next school year. He's got to, button up and fly right. And the principal sat us down to tell us that my son, so the principal sat us down to tell us that my son was going to be expelled for the next year
mm. Wow,
because
Oh,
of
wow.
wow.
his behavior.
Wow.
You just
So
like had
here I
one
am.
thing after another, hit you and bust apart your plans,
Right.
your hopes.
Disappointment.
Yeah. So again, and now you're handed another devastating blow. Where are you at with your faith
Well,
during all this?
so that day, again, more confusion. I think I cried the entire day on my knees and just saying, now more than ever, he needs to be around people of faith because he's at this stage of life. Like, this is what all this preparation was for, to get him through these years right now when boys can go amok. And
Ugh.
I just couldn't. I mean, it's still now, it's even, I can't understand from their perspective. I really don't understand why that was the route that they chose to take. My son was devastated. And so that night, I don't know that I thought much of anything. Like I said, I just cried and prayed through the night and just cried and was like, I don't get it. But it was the next morning when I woke up that it was a new day. Joy comes in the morning. And
Mhm.
I realized God has completely dismantled everything
Mm.
I have built for the last 12 years. And he's done it in the last 30 days. He's up to something. And then I got excited
Huh.
because I pictured life like a Rubik's Cube. If you remember the Rubik's Cube, you'd work hard and
Mhm.
you'd get one side of it, and then maybe you could get two sides of it. But in order to get all of the sides correct and to solve that puzzle, you have to dismantle the entire thing before you can put it back together again.
Right. That's good.
And so I woke up that day and I completely knew God has something around the corner. I don't know what it is, but okay, God, let's go. I'm ready. And
Well, I think it's beautiful, honestly, Bobby, first of all, that he gave you that
Mhm.
revelation
Yeah.
that something greater was ahead,
Well, and that you
as
had the faith
opposed
to
to
believe
and
it.
the faith to believe it. I think so many people get stuck in the chaos of the mixed
Mhm.
up Rubik's Cube that they can't see that that there is the puzzle is getting ready to come to a completion with
Mhm.
the Lord's hand. So I think that's super cool.
That was how suddenly started. I suddenly realized that 12
Mm,
years are gone and that there was a new dawn, something ahead. So I started applying for executive director positions for other companies, and I got some calls. It was all really, most of the companies are all a lot the same policies, same procedures. And then all of a sudden, somebody sent me word about this company called Watercrest, and they were hiring for an executive director. I have never heard of this company, and I was pretty savvy in the industry. And I start going through the website, and I'm like, this has to be a joke. It's all about servant leadership, talking about how you have a God given calling and that you were created with a purpose and a
a
platform that only
Christian
you.
company.
Yes. And there's words of faith all about it, and that
Mm.
um, we are called to honor our mothers and our fathers. And I thought, and it's not a Christian company, it's not a nonprofit, right? And I'm trying,
Mm.
I'm thinking this has to be a joke. I've never heard of this company, and it looks beautiful, like the website's gorgeous. So I thought, well, I'll throw a resume and we'll see. So I get a call from, like, about a week later, I get a call from an HR person to set up the interview with a higher up director. We have a nice conversation. A couple days later, I have about a 45-minute conversation with the person that's responsible for hiring. And good conversation. I was able to share a lot of personal stories of things that have happened in the industry. And she said, "Okay, well, we're going to think about this, and we're going to let you know. We want to know, make a decision in about a week or two." Okay, I'm not going anywhere. I've been waiting 12 years. That's fine. And 20 minutes later, I get a call back from the HR person who says, "We want to offer you the job." Nobody
Wow.
has even met me. Nobody has even seen me.
Wow, Bobby,
Wow.
that's
They
amazing.
have no idea. And I said, "Well, I want to see this community first, because I'm thinking I don't even know where this place is or if it even exists, or maybe I'm going to be like kidnapped when I go there or something." It was so peculiar. So I said, "Well, let me go tomorrow. I just want to see the community and see what I'm stepping into." And so sure enough, I got there the next day, and wouldn't you know, it really was a real beautiful, gorgeous, almost brand new community. I've only been there about a year, and it's just high end senior living. with an amazing staff that
Hmm.
just truly believes in just doing the right thing, living honestly, living by faith, and doing the right thing by people. And so I signed the acceptance letter, and even at that point, I'm like, this is too good to be true. Like
Huh.
something's gonna fall
For
apart.
such
Like
a
it
time as this, Bobby, for such a
it
time as
cannot
this.
be this easy. It can't be this easy all of a sudden. And so the next day, the company sent me this big, huge, beautiful bouquet of flowers to my house, welcoming me to the team.
Hmm.
It was just one amazing thing after another. And that was the suddenly, like suddenly.
Wow.
Mm.
And now
Wow.
here's where it ties in. And here's where God was doing something. Remember, I told you that whole story about the house and the
Uh-huh.
proximity. So go back here. So here's where I live. My whole life was down south here. Well, now my son's not going to school there. He's going to school here now, public school. The job that I applied for is 25 miles this way. Had I
Interesting.
got that house, there's no way I would have applied for a job that would have been
Uh,
60 miles away commute. There's just no way I would have even looked at
hmm.
it.
Huh.
So
Right.
it
Hmm.
was, I mean, perfect timing that there was a reason why that didn't happen.
Uh,
And so this was the year 2019. 2020 was just around the corner.
Oh boy.
So my son was now in public school that I was not paying for. And if he would have been still at the private school, I would have still been paying X amount of dollars for him to sit home and do school on his computer. It was no different, public or private school at that point. So it's like, you know, he really didn't miss anything. And actually, at that time, he ended up making some really good friends in our community at the local school. And that year, he went to youth group and he got himself baptized
Mm.
without even
Hallelujah.
telling his
wow.
mother.
Wow.
Oh,
But
you
that's
know what,
okay.
Bobby, real quick, I can hear your mama, beautiful heart. I was a single mom for 8 years and I have a son, a one son. So I can hear all this and
Hmm.
I know just how that might feel for you as well. And I just hear the love that you have for your son. And it's so beautiful. And how great that he got baptized on his own. And of course he didn't tell his mom because that's what they do sometimes.
That's
But
what things do.
we just praise the Lord through it all, right?
You know,
Mhm.
as you kind of peel back all the layers of what you've been through, so many delays, so many disappointments, things that looked like they were lined up one way and then everything falls apart. I think a lot of people assume that delay means denial, but in your case, it really didn't. And so, as you saw God putting all the pieces back together again, and in hindsight, as you look back, what is it that you think you learned most about God? How did you come to understand Him maybe in a new way, as you saw all of these pieces, different pieces, put back together in a way that you hadn't anticipated?
First and foremost, I definitely learned trust.
Mm.
And I definitely learned that, and I don't want to sound cliche, closing doors and opening windows and, whatever it is that people say, but true that our lives are really in God's hands.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That we can't get ahead of him. And if we just choose to walk behind him and not try to push down the doors, because I was, and when it was meant to be, it was so easy. I did really nothing other
Hmm.
than an application and a conversation, and that door was open wide to me.
That's
And
beautiful.
I look at it now and I see why I'm with the company that I'm with. Not only do I love them and respect them so much, but I have learned so much and I've been able to bring so much to the community and to the company that I work for. Um, but I'm also able to share that testimony of stay where you're planted until
Hmm.
you're
Yeah.
plucked.
Hmm.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of Isaiah 55:9. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. And so
Mm,
his ways are greater, right? And his
yeah.
timing is always best. And so what would you say to someone who feels like God has dismantled their plan and left them with questions like you've had?
Well, I think James chapter 1 says it. Count it
Mm.
Yeah.
all pure joy
Joy.
when you go through all these tribulations, because in that's how you're going to build up your faith and your perseverance.
That's good,
And
Bobby.
it's not fun necessarily, but when you know that you're doing it to honor God and that you're
Yeah.
trusting Him, there's a great freedom in that. There's a great
Yeah.
freedom in not putting your own happiness or your own self importance ahead of God's plan.
Mm.
And to say, okay, God, when you want to open the door, I will walk through it. And wow, I just thought of another story, and that's funny. I guess God keeps doing the same thing in my life over and over again. Um, and I'll share this. You can edit it out if you want to. But I just remembered when I was 23 and I had first moved to Florida and kind of just starting out. I was working in a restaurant and I was bartending. And it was a beautiful restaurant. It was a very high-end restaurant, and I didn't want to do that. Like that, I was hating the restaurant industry, quite frankly. And I was there for a while, and I was really looking for a job in ministry. I think I was working part-time at the radio station at this point. I was just like, God, just I don't care. I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying. Then I just decided I'm quitting. Okay, that's it. I'm going to step out on faith, and I drove to the restaurant, told my manager, I'm putting in my notice. And he said, where are you going? And I said, I have no idea, but I just believe that God is going to open up some doors for me. And I told him that. And he was like, okay, here she goes again. And so I applied for like 27 jobs,
Wow.
everything from like camp counselor, and I really don't even like kids, to bank teller, to
Except
like,
for your
I
own.
mean, anything. I didn't get any calls, zero. So then I decided I'm going to start a house cleaning business. And I made up like 150 flyers and put them all over the neighborhood. I don't even like to clean my own house. So I don't know why I thought that was going to be a good idea. So by this time, my 2-week notice has expired and he still keeps scheduling me. And so I'm thinking, okay, the housekeeping business is really going to work. I never got one call for the housekeeping business. And so by this time, it's been 4 weeks since I gave my notice. And I go into work that night and he said, so, it's been 4 weeks and have you found something? Because I'm going to keep scheduling you. And I said, no, I haven't. Just keep scheduling me, I guess, and I felt defeated. And I went into the ladies' room and I got on my knees in the bathroom and I started praying and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm done, God. Um, I don't know why you're keeping me here, but it's obvious you are. And
Mhm.
if I'm the first person to ever have a bartending ministry, then I will accept it. And that's what this is going to be.
Wow.
And
I love
so
it.
from that time on, I normally worked like lunch shifts. Almost every single day, I would have someone come in there that was seeking faith, needing prayer, needing words of encouragement. It was amazing. Like it really did turn into a really big ministry. I would pray over every seat before the day started,
Wow.
and
Wow.
it was amazing the people's lives that I was able to see changed in that place. And so much so when Way FM offered me a full-time job, I really kind of didn't want to go. I was like, no, but this is really fruitful. This is good. I don't
Mm.
want to go work for preaching to the choir. Like I got something here. But God
That's
was
so
pretty
good.
clear that, it was time.
Wow.
It
Bobby,
Wow.
was
that's
time to change.
amazing.
That's
And
so
and it's
good.
such, like you said before, bloom where you're planted, right? Like
Mhm.
God has you there for a purpose. And it's like workplace
Right.
ministry, right? You don't necessarily think that that's your ministry place, but it is. And so I think we as Christians need to really step into that authority and take
Yeah.
ownership of
Yeah.
that and really be courageous and bold with
Mm.
that. So I love that you were praying over every seat and the people that were coming to eat there. And anyway, that's just
I
so
also love
awesome.
that you're honest with
Yeah,
God about
right.
it. You're like, I don't
I
like it
don't really
here,
want it.
but I won't throw a tantrum. Instead, I'm going to trust you. And I think that's honestly, that's a
Yeah.
lesson for us in everyday life for all of us. Like it's
Yeah.
so easy to really get discombobulated when our plans don't work out. And we want to start blaming, and then we start pointing the finger upward, start blaming God rather than surrender and trust and be patient. And you've been a great example of that.
There is
Yeah.
something
And
so beautiful about giving up, and I think
the
part of
surrender.
the human experience is that we have all this strength and natural backbone and zeal and all kinds of things, and we want to fight for so many things.
Yeah.
And and all of our emotions get entangled in that. And then when we give up the ego, when we give up the wants, the dreams, and we just say, okay, God, you know what? I'm done. Here's my life.
Mhm.
Here it is over again. Forgive me for taking it back. Just do what you want to do with it. And when you really can say that, it's so freeing. And you also start to
Hmm.
see the days through his perspective instead of through your own ego.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
That's
good,
good.
Bobby, and he can use you best that way. You have written a book, and I want to talk about that. So the book is called "The First Shall Be Last." It's about transformational leadership. There it
There it is,
is, that
holding the book
beautiful
up. Yep.
cover. Yes, I love it. And you know, in your bio, we do talk about how you've been Bobi Ryan for a lot of years on air, and this and that. But you are Bobby Kruenberg, your maiden name, in this book. And so for people to find this book, but that's the name it's under, and we'll put that in the show
And
notes
it's
as
just
well.
released, right?
But it's just released,
Available on
Yep,
Amazon.
just, you know,
Yeah.
hot off
Cool.
the
Cool.
press.
and one of the things that you really focus on is servant leadership. And one of the things that you mention on the back of the book that really speaks to me, even during this interview, as you're kind of talking about the people that you've met and the connections and the this and the that, is your greatest resource is your people, not your systems. And that just spoke huge volumes to me, and I think it'll speak to our listeners as well. So excited about your book.
Well,
And
thank you so much. It's meant to
yeah.
be an easy, quick read, easy to apply. I know if you're in leadership in any sort of capacity, you're busy, and I understand that. And I don't like words that are long and flowery. I don't like people to use too many words. I learned in radio, you got to be concise. So
That's
I
right.
try to keep it.
GTP, get to the point.
I
Tight,
try to keep
tight,
it
bright,
super
and brief.
concise. It is a workbook, so you'll have a section each day, and then you have an area for reflection and questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really is about seeing yourself as a servant leader, as the leader God called you to be. As he said, the Apostle Paul talks a lot about what leaders are supposed to be. We're supposed to be blameless. We're supposed to be hospitable. We're supposed to have one spouse and children that obey. We are supposed to be not lovers of wine, not prone to violence. There's a whole string of things he puts together. And there's a reason why he did that. And that's kind of unpacked in there. And then also looking for authentic ways to bring the best out of your people, because if you're in leadership, you're there to serve them.
Yeah.
And we think that our systems, well, I'll just have a repeatable routine and I'll just manage the routine and I get my paycheck. And that's not what God called you for in leadership. You have influence. You can change people's lives by the culture that you create in your business, your organization, or your family. And then the book also gives you an opportunity to sit with God and write a authentic and applicable mission statement for your life.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Love
Good
it, love it,
going.
love it.
Good going. Just happy for you, proud of you, grateful that in all those years of waiting, you were learning lessons that you can now bring into the lives of others to encourage them and inspire them. So, I mean, it can't get better than that. So,
Can
as
we get
we,
this on Amazon? Is that the best way, or through a website?
You absolutely can get it on Amazon. It's called The First Shall Be Last.
Awesome. And we will put that in the show notes as well, so everybody can just click on the link.
Bobby, as we wrap things up, is there any one thing in particular you want to leave with listeners? Because there may be some who are feeling very sort of disoriented in the current chaos. They don't understand it. They don't get it. They're not sure why God isn't coming through. They're tired of being patient. Just any little nugget that you can share from your own life that would help them get through this period.
I would say, hold on. Hold on and trust, because God has a suddenly that is coming for you.
That's good. God has a suddenly coming for you.
I love it. Drop the mic on that.
Take your eyes off the clock and off the calendar and just look up. I love that. Thank you,
good.
Bobby.
Bless you, Bobby. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for blessing us and our listeners.
Thank you both so much. I'm so humbled and I'm so honored. Thank you for giving me this privilege.
Yeah. Take care. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, we love spending time with you right here on Your Biggest Breakthrough podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. But until then, just head on over to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com, where you'll find some free resources and information and a place where you can comment, and we would love to dialogue with you there. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.